Hello everyone, this is Kristen Riecke and I'm here with my husband Patrick, and we are the authors of No Matter How Small, Understanding Miscarriage and Stillbirth, and we are also the content providers for this YouTube channel. So if you want to go ahead and like and subscribe, like the video, and then it will show you that you can subscribe to our channel, and that's going to be a resource for you to discover lots of different things under the umbrella of grief and also miscarriage and stillbirth.
So we talked about in our last video a little bit of our experience of finding out that our first pregnancy had ended in miscarriage, and I used the word blindsided. We also use the word shock a lot of times, where it just feels you just don't expect a baby to die. You know, I mean, sometimes you can anticipate that for an adult that's been sick, but certainly you never think that that's going to be the case for a pregnancy or for a baby or a child. And so that shock really hit us. But we did, of course, come to find out that it is sadly a very common experience.
It is, and I'm just going to read out of one of the chapters here in No Matter How Small. It's actually our first chapter, and it's called Statistics Matter. And so I'm just going to highlight a few little pieces here. The first one that I want to say is the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists states, early pregnancy loss is common, occurring in 10% of all clinically recognized pregnancies. Approximately 80% of all cases of pregnancy loss occur in the first trimester, so that'll be the first 12 weeks, which we got past, and I think secretly or even maybe observably, we were relieved. A key phrase in this quote is clinically recognized. So what that means is there aren't always recognizable pregnancies, whether mom doesn't know she's pregnant and loses, or that it's not been clinically recognized, which means she hasn't gone into the physician's office and got the, whether it was the blood test or the pee stick or whatever it is that they confirm that pregnancy.
Yeah, so we were even talking with some moms the other day saying that their first appointment wasn't until after the first trimester, and so
Right.
So if they'd had a loss, wouldn't necessarily have shown up in this 10 to 15% statistic because they hadn't had that pregnancy confirmation at the doctor's office, let alone have the confirmation of miscarriage at the doctor's office.
Right. And that was true for us. I was shocked when I called to make my first appointment with Stephen, and they were like, see you at 12 weeks. And I was like, that's months from now. And the other quote that I wanted to cite here in the same chapter says that the March of Dimes, which is an organization that works really diligently to help prevent and educate on premature birth, says this: for women who know they're pregnant, about 10 to 15% end in miscarriage. Most miscarriages, again, occur in the first trimester before the 12th week of pregnancy. Miscarriage in the second trimester between 13 weeks and 19 weeks happens in 1 to 5 of all pregnancies, of 100 pregnancies, and so 1 to 5%. So even before we consider stillbirth or the death of a baby after they're born, that's a significant number. It's upwards of 25%.
And again, these are moms that know they're pregnant, go to the doctor, have that confirmation, and then have the confirmation of the miscarriage, and that's all recorded because, of course, that's the only way you can measure anything clinically is if it's on record at the doctor's office. So a lot of moms who may not even know they're pregnant, we believe that may have been the case for us at one point in time. Looking back in time later, we think that there may have been another miscarriage that we weren't even aware of at the time, so obviously it hit us a lot differently than the one with Stephen when we knew what was going on. One of the things then that March of Dimes comes around to say, and we quote them at the end of the chapter, is that really when you take it all together, the known and the unknown, the early, the middle, the late, and even SIDS deaths, not mix all of that together, that the rate at which a fertilized egg becomes that baby that's sleeping peacefully and healthy in that crib in the nursery is only about 50%. Yeah. And that's heartbreaking.
It's very, very common though.
So I think one of the questions I wanted to ask you before we wrap up this video is, you knew that this was a phenomenon that happened obviously before we miscarried, and you were more acquainted with this sort of thing than I was. But learning afterwards and having moms sort of come out of the woodwork to you and say, this happened to me, and learning how common it was, How did that affect your feelings and your emotions and your grief?
Well, of course, I think that anything is complicated by feeling alone, right? It is by far one of the greatest tools of the enemy to isolate us, no matter what we're facing, whether it's a scary health diagnosis or the death of a loved one or loss of a job, divorce. There's lots of things, and if we feel like we're suffering alone, I feel like that suffering is magnified. And so it made me feel not so alone, and I'm so grateful for those women. I knew some of those women, and they already had adult children, and I had no idea that they had lost a pregnancy. One couple at our church, he was an elder at the church, and the Martins introduced us to their stillborn daughter Amy at that time, and we didn't even know that they had had that experience, and so we were just so grateful. People sent us resources, books that had helped them, they really were so supportive, and I felt super grateful for that. I definitely felt like, although we were super young and didn't have a lot of peers that had gone through this experience, I felt like so many mentors, so many people ahead of the game turned around and reached out to us and embraced us and guided us through the beginnings of our own grief journey.
Yeah. And that's part of the mission of why we wrote the book too, right?
Yeah.
Is to increase awareness. I think the new generations, the younger generations, are doing a better job talking about the topic.
Yep.
But there's a lot of ground to be gained and caught up in talking about that and making people aware how common it is. Every week, I think we have a conversation with somebody who's shocked how much this happens, which
Yes.
tells us that there's not enough awareness that it
Right.
is something that happens a lot.
We need to keep bringing it
Right.
to the forefront
Yeah.
of our conversations.
So that's part of the purpose of these videos, the YouTube channel, certainly the book, Kristen's work with moms and what we do at the hospital. So like the video, subscribe it, share with a friend. If you have a friend who's gone through this, send it over to them at the conclusion of this, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.